Florida, Georgia, as a proud Gator, I hate to say this, has lost its luster for the year. My Gators have not brought the same zeal that the Georgia Bulldogs have. And do you think that this game, when you look at it this week, has it lost its luster, as the biggest game on this weekend? We normally are the top ticket on Halloween weekend, but has it lost its luster?
Not in my opinion, Max. I mean, look, I think it's not what obviously it is when both teams are, towards the top, all in the top 10 and with no loss, undefeated or maybe just have one loss. But I think it's still a hell of a football game with a lot to play for right now. Look, I think for Georgia, obviously, is the best team in the country. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think there's a handful of teams in America, or let's just say in the SEC, since that's what you and I are talking about. I think there are a handful of teams in the SEC that have the dudes, if you will. And I'm talking about year in, year out. I'm not necessarily talking specifically about one position at Florida right now, but year in, year out, I think Florida can go toe-to-toe with the dudes in that locker room with anybody in the country. I do believe that Florida is the best collection of dudes, if you will, that Georgia's seen since Clemson. And I think it'll be the best collection of dudes that they will see until probably Bama in the SEC championship game. And so I think this has the potential to be a much better football game than one might think. And I'm going to tell you, man, I don't doubt Dan Mullen. I mean, Dan Mullen is a guy that, man, he can pull the rabbit out of the hat with a game plan. He can pull the rabbit out of the hat how he develops quarterbacks and matures quarterbacks throughout the year. And so, while I'm not picking Georgia, I'm not I'm not picking Florida. I'm not going to put my hard-earned money on Florida. I think there's some potential there. I think there's some potential there with Anthony Richardson. He has to be special. He has to be great. Dan Mullen has to have Maxie has to have a Jimbo Fisher versus Alabama type of vibe this weekend. That game plan, that young quarterback development. I mean, he's got to do what Jimbo Fisher did. Hopefully he called Jimbo Fisher this weekend and said, hey, man, shoot me that game plan up over here to Gainesville before we crack off against Georgia. But look, I think it's got plenty of luster, my man.
Okay. I mean, when I look at it, it doesn't have that mystique, even though we do get a 3:30 kick. They didn't move this game to noon, which I mean, is always indicative of a dud, right? You see that noon game time.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, this is going to be bad. But I mean, when I look at it, I think because Florida has just underachieved the last couple of weeks, it's tough for me to feel great because they're still making some of the mistakes they made at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And that works on lesser competition, but we've all seen what happens when that rears its ugly head in Kentucky. You can't stay on sides. Turn the ball over in the red zone. Like all of a sudden you can't rush against LSU and you can't stop the run against LSU. Those are the things that I fear when you're looking at what Georgia does well. It doesn't bode well if you haven't learned your lesson, right?
That's right.
If you can't find the rush game and your quarterback, Emory Jones, is leading your team in passing and rushing right now, still both top two categories, and you haven't found a clear running back to do that, to at least put some of that burden on them or displace some of the responsibility. That's tough. And then when you don't have a run game, because what are you going to have to do against Georgia to have a shot?
Yeah.
You got to stop their rush and force them to put the ball in the air, because that's the only place they're not spectacular is in the air. They've underachieved and they don't have the QB for that. But I just fear that they can't stop the rush. The offensive line bullies people. Our D line has not bullied anybody in a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm not counting Vanderbilt. That was homecoming. We had kids that came from the band section that threw on a helmet and was bullying Vanderbilt. So I don't even want to say that. But when I look at it, it's that collection that just gives me a little bit of pause. And let's face it, this is probably one of the biggest lines I've seen. 2 touchdown differential. That's tough to swallow.
Yeah, trust me, I had to swallow number 8 in the country at Arkansas when it was a 17.5 point. I'm still getting comments on that video I made about how that was disrespect to Arkansas. So hell, I can only imagine how y'all feel at Florida. But look, I think here's the deal, Max. And you can tell me better than anybody with the quarterback situation up there. This is one of those games where I feel like obviously Dan Mullen has to be great, but is Anthony Richardson is his time just not coming this year, or is it because this is the kind of game where that freakish arm and that crazy combination of size and athletic ability should be a difference maker. Like this is where a guy like Anthony Richardson could be if he plays a clean game, if he gets the opportunity, plays a clean game, and then you see his elite skill set pop several times throughout the game. That could be the difference maker for Florida that they need. Are we just looking at a game where Emory's going to get the majority of the run?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I mean, you would think that Dan would recognize that you got to have some out the box play here to go up against this defense.
Yeah,
because I've seen what happens when running backs run between the tackles. I've also realized when I put paper in my shredder over here, what happens to paper. That's essentially what you're doing with your running back, running him between the tackles right now.
Yeah.
Like it has to be edges. You've got to stress and pressure those edges. And do I think Emory Jones can do a good job with that RPO two-way go type of deal? Yes. But does he do it as well as Anthony Richardson? I would say no. I mean, I'm not in practice to see it week in and week out how the arm works off of that. If he can throw cross-body platform consistently,
right,
and be mobile and moving. But I would say I'd rather take a shot with him in this game because I know what I'm getting with Emory Jones.
Right. This is the game when you and I first talked, Max. This is the kind of game I was talking about. Emory could get you through and probably have a hell of a season. But when it comes down to like you're gonna have to throw the ball off platform. You're gonna have to throw the football, running to the sideline, fading back, and you're gonna have to rip 140 yards in the back of the end zone, and hopefully you got a guy that can go make a catch. I trust Anthony Richardson to do that kind of thing. I believe if he does leave the pocket, he's a guy with the speed and the athletic ability to go make plays versus Georgia, right? I mean, I watched Arkansas. I'll refer back to Arkansas because I watch them closely, obviously, every week. I mean, they're a really, really good running football team. But Georgia made them look – they made their size and their speed look insignificant. So if you don't have that elite type of size or that elite type of speed, you don't stand a damn chance. And I just think that's why I keep going back to Anthony Richardson of you got to live by the sword. You might die by the sword, but it's going to give you a chance to be in that thing in the fourth quarter potentially. I don't know if Emory Jones does that for you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and you look at it, I mean, Emory only has 1,300 yards through what, 7 games? We're going into the 8th game of the season.
Yeah.
That's less than 200 yards a game. You know, there's no difference. The Kyle Trask, 400 yards passing, 350 out the door. And Emory has shown you what he can and can't do. He hasn't given you that 300 plus passing yard performance. And in today's SEC, you've got to have that either on the ground or in the air. You can't have a mix getting up to 300 yards.
Right, right.
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. What about the defense, Max? What about the defense, man? I mean, they shit the bed against LSU and gave up 287 yards to one damn running back. I mean, can they fix that well enough to slow Georgia down? Do they have the horses to slow Georgia down?
See, here's the thing. I think they have the horses. It's just whether they actually show up. You know what I'm saying? Like when the gates open, is that horse going to run?
Yeah.
Because they got the stars next to their names, but the stars don't travel on the field.
That's right.
This thing right here, this muscle right here, that travels on the field.
That's right.
And I'm not sure I'm seeing that muscle work itself. I don't care how fast you can run. I don't care how big your biceps are. How big is that muscle?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what this game is going to come down to. It's going to come down to heart. It's going to come down to determination. And it's going to come down to, I don't like you. I wish bad things upon you, and I'm going to be the harbinger of those bad things.
Yeah.
I am your grim reaper. Look in my eyes. I want your soul. That's what you got to have at this game. And I haven't seen that from any of these defensive linemen yet.
Well, Max, look, if that's if that is inside these defensive linemen, you just told me you think they have the horses, and I agree with you. I believe you. I think they do. If that Grim Reaper, if that dog, whatever you want to call it, is ever going to be pulled out of a Florida player, it shouldn't take the Georgia-Florida game to do it. But if it doesn't show up in the damn Florida-Georgia game, something's wrong.
It ain't in your DNA. You can test that blood as much as you want. That's gonna come. Hey, it's gonna come out as ketchup. I can tell you that right now.
That's right.
Now, do I believe Zachary Carter has that dog? I'll give you that. Zach Carter, he has a dog in him, and that dog's waiting to get taken off the leash. I don't know if I see that with Jeremiah Moon. I mean, he gives you a lot of plays, but he doesn't give you the play. That's what I need to see. Like, those are the guys you're leaning on, right? I need to see them go ahead and say, you know what, Zamir White, guess what? I'm your worst nightmare, because guess what? I am your boogeyman. I'm your shadow right now. And you're not running away from your shadow. And I'm going to meet you in the hole every time. I'm going to meet you off the edge. I'm coming after you. And that's what you're going to need. That's the type of intensity that it takes. Because as a guy who played this Florida-Georgia game 4 times, you have a dark heart when you step on that field in Jacksonville.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I have one thing in my, I'll never forget. It was our junior year, and one of my best buds from high school, DeCorey Bryant, he was DB at Georgia, top punt returner and everything. DeCorey calls me during our bye. He's like, "Hey man, hey Max, what you doing? Man, you ready for this game? I can't wait to see you." Da 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 da. Blah 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 blah. Hey, guess what? My boy David Pollock's is over here. He wanted to say something to you. You know he's leading the country in sacks. I'm like, Deco, what we got going here, bro? I'm like, what you gonna do? Boom. Puts me on the phone with him. Hey, David. Hey, Max. How you doing? Doing good. Can't wait for the game next week. Oh, me neither. He's like, yeah, I can't wait to continue to lead the country in sacks after this game. I was like, whoa, okay. Okay. I see where this is going. I said, David, it'll be great if you can lead the team in sacks after having a sackless performance. That'll be great. I think you can still lead the country as long as nobody else gets sacks. That would be great, because that's what's going to happen when we play.
Yes. Well, what went down?
Ask him what his stat line was. Ask David Pollock what his stat line was.
Lock him up.
He got 2 tackles.
Oh, yes.
0 sacks. And those tackles were assisted tackles. Yes, that is what happened. I'm like, so that's just something in you, and you just can't wait to get on, because you got your boys across the field from you that you played in all-star games with.
Yeah.
Guys that was in the state of Florida that played Red Rover and went over to Georgia. Then we got Georgia boys who came over to Florida that we got to make right.
That's
the
right.
Travis Harrises, the Ben Troops of the world, the Kelvin Kites. Like, all these dudes, we played against each other in the Florida-Georgia team. We were different. But then when it came to that photo shoot, hey, who's going to University of Florida? Them Georgia jerseys came over. And we had to make them right, as well as keeping ourselves right for staying at home and not going across to Georgia like some of our buddies. And I think that's what made this game so real, is that you got a taste of it in high school with the all-star game. And then it carries over to college. Friends like my high school buddy, DeCorey Bryant. Deco and I went to high school together. He's at Georgia. And I'm at Florida. So I'm looking across at him. He playing DB on the edge. I'm like, okay, if you corner blitz, I'm gonna have to mess you up, bro. Make sure you keep running with Jabbar Gaffney, Rashay Caldwell, and Taylor Jacobs. Don't come here. You got an easy one. You smell fish. I was like, 'cause you know me mad. All beef, no pork.
That's right. This is great, man.